In this special edition of Sports Science, we're tackling the Super Bowl. Which catch required the least amount of force? David Tyree's circus catch or Santonio Holmes' textbook snap?
I feel like RoboCop.
Football is a game of forces. Over the course of a single game, hundreds of thousands of pounds of force are applied in high-speed impacts and low-speed pileups. But we want to look at the other end of the spectrum. What's the smallest amount of force that's ever won a Super Bowl? To find out, we're going to use cutting-edge technology to analyze two of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history. David Tyree's circus catch of Super Bowl 42 and Santonio Holmes' textbook catch in Super Bowl 43, which will be crowned the biggest Super Bowl play using the least force. There are plenty of variables that led up to each catch. Time, velocity, defensive coverage. These factors can't tell us which catch was more difficult or more improbable. There are just too many intangibles, too many factors that can't be measured. What we can measure, however, is force. How much force did he use to clamp the ball to his helmet? Less than you'd think. At the angle at which it was held against the helmet, the ball could be held in place with as little as 3 pounds of force. That's less force than it takes to break an egg. And ironically, Harrison helped Tyree make the catch. If Tyree had simply jumped straight up and down, he would have hit the ground with 393 pounds of force. But Tyree didn't hit the ground. He collapsed across Harrison's thigh, which slowed his descent gradually, dissipating impact forces by 81%. Forces that could have jarred the ball loose. And with Harrison's body between him and the ground, Tyree was able to stop the ball's descent from 27 miles an hour to 0, only 2 inches from the ground. In total, Tyree used 70 pounds of force with his hands, 3 pounds of force with his fingers, and landed with an impact force of another 73 pounds. Which means it took a grand total of 146 pounds of force to make this catch. How does that amount of force compare to Santonio Holmes' game-winning catch for the Steelers? The best way to determine that is to bring in the man himself, Super Bowl 43 MVP, Santonio Holmes. This first-round draft pick has turned into one of the NFL's best wide receivers. A deep threat with breakaway speed. But his speed wasn't the key to his catch. It was total body control. Here in the Sports Science Lab, Santonio will recreate his textbook catch while wired up for data. Eye-tracking technology will record precisely what he's looking at as he tracks the ball.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet right there.
Yeah.
Pressure sensors from his toes to his fingertips will measure every move as Holmes reaches full extension. How do you feel?
I feel like RoboCop.
Standing in for Big Ben is NFL quarterback Colt Brennan. Did Santonio Holmes use less force than David Tyree to win the Super Bowl? Time to find out. All right, here we go, guys. And 3, 2, 1, go. With uncanny precision, a product of years of practice and muscle memory, here in the lab, Santonio replicates the catch perfectly. Woo! Data from our eye-tracking technology reveals that Santonio's eyes find his target by first looking above where he expects it to be then below, before locking in on the ball. This happens in 1/10 of a second. Through a lightning-fast process called accommodation, the lens of the eye becomes more rounded as the ball approaches, allowing Santonio to maintain focus as he watches the ball into his hands. But did he use less force than Tyree? Go! The TechScan sensors inside his shoes reveal that when he drags his toes to stay in bounds, Holmes presses down on the turf with only 20 pounds of force. In the sensors on his hands, the data tells us that this perfect catch also created 20 pounds of force on the ball. Amazingly, this Super Bowl winning catch took a total of only 40 pounds of force, and it was symmetrical, perfectly balanced between his toes and his hands. And that's 106 pounds less than the David Tyree catch. With all the hundreds of thousands of pounds of force at play in the biggest game of his life, incredibly, Santonio Holmes decided the game using a grand total of only 40 pounds of force. And that makes this catch the smallest amount of force that has ever won the biggest game.